now have reflections by Mrs. Sandra Glover, grandniece of Mrs. Dudley. Mrs. Glover.
I threatened my aunt when I came up here because I told her I'm telling everything. She really doesn't care. Your living legend is my Aunt M. And because it's customary at this time of affairs to share how we see her as members of the family, I'm going to do that in brief. There are several decades between Aunt M and myself. Several. I have a brother and a sister and several cousins. In the Burris household, we were known, still are known, as the children. Aunt M, by the time I think we were about 7 or 8, every Christmas, she would give the children, all of the children in the family, Argyle socks. At 10, we got Argyle socks. At 15, we got Argyle socks. At 20, we got Argyle socks. And at 30, we got Argyle socks. We thought the Argyle socks would never stop. I think about 35, we all stopped getting Argyle socks, but we were all 35. So when the children get together and talk about Aunt M, that's what we remember. But that's not what I want to leave you with, because memories are only as long-lasting as the mind is able to hold them, or as long as the carrier of them is with us. And I don't want to leave you with the memory. I want to leave you today with a legacy that Aunt M gave us as part of the birth plan. Aunt M's legacy to us was a determination to succeed. She taught each of us that we need to think about being successful. She would ask us things, what do you want to be when you grow up? We were very, very young. Do you want to be doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a teacher? She always gave us very lofty goals, and she always gave us that determination to succeed. As a student here many years ago, I remember there were many times I wanted to quit, and I wanted to leave, and I wanted to go home to mom. I would talk to Aunt M, and she would tell me that you started out and you got to finish. She never told me why I had to finish, but I had to finish. She gave us a legacy of perseverance. She would always say, no matter what it is, if you start it, finish it, no matter what. I remember a time when I had to take sewing. I hate sewing. Hate any kind of domestic thing. And I would go and ask Johnny M to show me how to do this, how to do that. And I'd be ready to quit and give it to her. And she was excellent. She'd give it back to me. For the purposes of those who went before us. But she also gave us a legacy to respect the knowledge of those who went before us. She would always tell us about listening to our elders because they knew more. They had been there. They had made mistakes. They were trying to protect us from making the mistakes they made. And I remember being about 6 or so. My parents had sent me to Aunt M's house for the summer. And back in those days, Aunt M would have us to go to church in the morning, come home in the afternoon, keep on our church clothes, and sit on the porch. Beautiful day, but we had to sit on the porch in our play clothes. Auntie M, when I was 5 and 6 and 7, seemed very dumb, because that was a dumb thing for a 7-year-old kid to do, be all dressed up with nowhere to go. And Auntie M seemed real dumb to me at that age. But then somewhere around 19 or 20, when I was 19 or 20, Auntie M got real smart. And I, to this day, don't know how that happened. But she always taught us to respect the knowledge of the people who have gone before you. Because they know things that you don't know, and they're trying to keep you from mistakes. Auntie M taught us the importance of keeping family records. I have a father that I've lived with actually in his company for about 21 years. I left home at about 21. But I learned about my father from my aunt because she has his report cards. She has the things he did in school. She has the record of the clubs he belonged to. She has the records of the kinds of things he did as a child. So I learned about the importance of family history by watching my Auntie M. She had a basement full of junk, as big as this room. But what I thought was junk turned out to be the history of our whole family. And I learned the importance of keeping history together. I learned the importance of family. The Burris clan is very large. She is the oldest living Burris out of, I think it's either 10 or 11 brothers and sisters. And Aunt M admits to being 90 years old. I asked her if I could tell, and she said it was all right. And I asked her, Auntie M, how old are you? She said, 90. I said, 90? She said, yeah, 90. And then she said, 90? Is that all? But she's taught us the importance of family. We used to meet as a family twice a year, every year for decades, the whole clan. And as various ones in the family started to pass and become old and become sickly, that kind of meeting fell by the wayside. But now, those kinds of family gatherings are being reintroduced in the grand nieces and nephews. So through her, we learn the importance of family. And lastly, Auntie M taught us the importance of giving back. Because of my aunt, I went to Cheney. Because I went to Cheney, I became an educator. Because I became an educator, I've touched the lives of no less than 2,000 people, some of which came to Cheney, some of which went on to be successful, some of which went on to have strategies for living. But she taught us the importance of giving back, of not getting yours and running, but making ways, finding ways, and creating ways to give back, to keep the legacy going. And that's how I know my Auntie M. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Clover. This time we have reflection by Mrs. Betty Berry Holmes, President of the National Alumni Association. Mrs. Berry Holmes.
Let us take time to turn Auntie M back into Butch. Now, ladies, think about the time, those of us who were not fortunate enough to have the skills for basketball or field hockey, and we played something called speedball. I had never heard of speedball before I came to Cheney. And it was a game that was a combination of football and field hockey and basketball, because you had a ball that was like brown. It was a little larger than a soccer ball, but smaller than a basketball. And I was a person, one, who didn't like to run, a person who did not like to have something kicked or hit you. And speedball was a very active game, one that I have not played since I left Cheney University. And for those of us who constantly heard, ladies, when it was time for spring, we knew it was time to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, in and out and over and under. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, in and out and over and under. And then we think of the lucky gentlemen who were fortunate enough not to have to wrap the maypole. However, they had to put on those little cute Grecian costumes. And we had gentlemen like Jimmy Jones, and unfortunately he's not here today, and they had like those stockings with those real short skirts, and we tried to look up underneath of there, but they wouldn't let us. Then we had those of us who didn't have the opportunity to go in and out, but they had to undertake the making of the costumes. And we had people like Iris Pittman and Phyllis Hammond who didn't rap, but they made all those beautiful costumes that we had to wear each May Day. Then we go to those ladies who were fortunate enough to have the skill to play basketball. And they heard, ladies, when you have a foul shot, that's a thank you shot. Don't you dare miss it. And then we had people like Loretta Fisher who would say, yes, Miss Dudley, I'll make it every time. Because you did not want to incur the wrath of our famous basketball coach, also known as Butch. Then we have people like Coach O'Shields, who were instrumental in helping us to put that May Day together. Remember those days, Miss Dudley? Some of the things that were known by the family of Mildred Burris Dudley are some of the things that we can keep in mind as we reflect on our living legend. We know words like dedicated. No matter how we felt, we knew Miss Dudley was always dedicated to everything that she did. Commitment, and she explained that very eloquently on the tape. If we take her name and take like Dudley, we'll come up with words like dedication, uniformity, because as she said, if it was in print, you did it, it was uniform. She was also, if we take a D, she was kind of devilish, because as we heard when she was younger, now we know why when we were either behind those bushes or we were someplace where we shouldn't be. She had done it, so therefore she knew what to look out for when she became the powerful person. We will always think of Mrs. Dudley as a loyal person. When you think Cheney, you think Dudley. Loyalty to Cheney University is something that she helped to instill in us. Give back, Many of us are here today because we got that mindset from her. I don't think we saw any professor, as we reflect, to have the energy that Ms. Dudley had. There was always pep in her step. And when you saw her, she would move along, why you take so long, move along. And we've heard a revelation here today that I'm sure many of you were quite amazed about. How many of you knew how old Ms. Dudley was? We used to ask her, Miss Dudley, how old are you? Get away from here, girl. Or she would smile. Why are you asking that question? We can always think of her as a youthful person because we never really knew how old she was. And now that we know that our living legend is 90, I'm not really sure if she is 90. She may be a little older than 90 and not really telling us that. You know, like Jack Benny was always 39. So our living legend will live on in our minds as a youthful, energetic person who was always dedicated to our dear alma mater, Cheney University.
Thank you, Ms. Barry Holmes. I have one addition, and I have several additions, but I'll stop now for one of them. We have members here from the Northwest Chapter of Cheney Alumni Association. I'd like Mrs. Marie Holland to come forward. Ms. Marie Holland has a gift.
Good afternoon. You notice I'm not on the program, but I asked to be acknowledged since I am Sunshine Chairperson of the Northwest Chapter. And I suggested that we remember our dear friend. She's been so nice to us in our Northwest Chapter to get her a small token. And so I purchased a card for the chapter, and on the inside, I made up a verse, and this is what it says. Mrs. Dudley, may this shawl keep you warm with happiness and love from the Northwest Chapter Cheney alumni. God bless you always, and today's date. And so I present to Mrs. Dudley. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Holland. We will now have presentations from the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. We have Ms. Jeanette Floyd, Ms. Terry Thrift, and Ms. Tammy Williams.
Good afternoon. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be a part of such a historic event in the renaming of Pennsylvania Hall to the Mildred B. Dudley Performing Arts Center. We in Omega Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority have known for a long time how unique and special our sister Mildred Dudley is, and the impact she has made and will continue to make on so many of us. Her dedication and commitment to young people is well documented by those who had the good fortune to be taught by her and nurtured by her. So strong was her belief that our young people deserve the right to be educated, that she chaired our chapter scholarship program for many years and had very successful fundraisers so that we were able to subsidize the career choice of some of our young people. Approximately 12 years ago, a perpetual scholarship fund was established by Omega Omega chapter in her honor. To date, over $100,000 in scholarships have been given to graduating high school seniors in the Delaware Valley area who have been accepted in colleges and universities throughout the country. Mildred B. Dudley has instilled in so many the desire, motivation, and self-esteem to be all that you can be well before the Army. Her legacy will continue. Mildred B. Dudley deserves this honor for her many accomplishments and contributions to Cheney University and to all of us. I'm going to ask at this time if the members of Omega Omega chapter and Delta Iota would please stand. It is a pleasure for me to announce that we are establishing a joint task force to work with Cheney University to investigate a commemorative stained glass window to be installed in the new Mildred B. Dudley Performing Arts Center. I'm going to ask all Alpha Kappa Alpha women who are in the room to please stand. Sword Dudley, you are an integral part of each of us. And we have in Alpha Kappa Alpha a tradition of the tea rose. And we want you to be able to enjoy it, look at it. I will come to her and smell it. But we're also going to give you some flowers that you may spend. We love you.
Some are edited and some are not. About 5 or 6 years ago, there was a poem that I read in our Sunday bulletin that I liked very, very much. And so I cut it out and folded it and put it in my pocketbook and took it home. And then I read it. And what I got out of it was really something that I wanted. So I put it back in the pocketbook, and I want to share that poem with you. As you know, I have everything wrong with my eyes. My nurse is sitting right here looking at me now, wondering what's going to happen. But I think I can see this without those drops. And this poem stuck with me. I can see it, and I want you to hear it. Oftentimes, things happen in this life that tend to get you down. Misfortune is a bitter pill which causes hearts to frown. Ill health, lost love, or lack of cash fill us with sad despair and hold it up beneath the weight makes happy moments rare. First one thing and then another, until at last it seems that life's a maze of rocky roads stacked high with broken dreams. It's then that we should look around and we will find, I'm sure, many persons much worse off, yet able to endure. With faith and hope and sincere prayer, they go along their way, making life's most treasured flowers from a sweet bouquet. Remember this, when things go wrong, sunshine follows the rain. It matters not how rough the road. This life is not in vain.
Yeah, presented by Ms. Terry Thrift.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I pay homage to our great guest today, I would like to recognize and acknowledge the alumni who sponsored Ms. Dudley's transportation. Velma Lester, the coordinator, Laverne Case, Marie Brown, Loretta Foster, Cynthia Muse, Iris Pittman, Phyllis Hammond, Willie Mouzon, Christine Height, Betty Berry Holmes, and Peggy Lonesome. Thank you very much. Sora Mildred. On behalf of Delta Iota Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, I would like to present you with this token of our respect, appreciation, devotion, pride, and our love. Without you, there would not be a Delta Iota. Delta Iotans from all over salute you. I have here 12 pink tea roses, and for each one, Delta Iota has come up with 12 attributes to describe you. They are beautiful, graceful, strength, class, dedication, supreme, supportive, giving, educated, talented, loving, and sisterly. On behalf of Delta Iota Chapter, Sora Mildred, I present these roses to you.
Presentation by Ms. Tammy Williams.
Good afternoon, Sora Dudley, President McCummings, and guests. As a token of Delta Iota's appreciation, we would like to give this plaque to you, Sora Dudley. The plaque reads, "With appreciation to Sora Mildred B. Dudley, your life is like the ivy bee, a help to man and a wreath for thee. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Delta Iota Chapter, December 8, 1990. Thank you.
Ms. Marie Holland, will you come back up, please? Ms. Marie Holland would like to recognize member of the Northwest Chapter of Virginia Little.
I want him to excuse my back, but an oversight on my part, and I'm sorry. I'd like for the Northwest Chapter to stand. All of the members of the Northwest Chapter.
And one change, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. The names that were read to you as those persons who were responsible for Mrs. Dudley's transportation were those of us who got together and decided that she really needed to ride here in a limousine. But all of you have been kind enough to make a contribution to that. So we just wanted to make sure that you knew that we know that, and we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have remarks by Mr. James Mannings, a member of the Cheney University Council of Trustees. Mr. Manning.
On behalf of the council, I'd like to first introduce fellow council members. Dr. Sam Johnson, and I'd like Dr. Johnson just to acknowledge himself. Dr. Johnson is the dean of our council, extensive experience legislatively, particularly in terms of education. And the newest member and the student member is Pat Robertson. And I'm always pleased to ask the student to stand and acknowledge himself, and I'm sure he will acquit himself well on the council. But Pat, would you let the people know who you are? Miss Dudley is the only thing I've ever called you. You don't know me. That was by design. I spent 3 years at Cheney from 1961 to 1964, and I have two memories of you before I honor you on behalf of the council. One was I knew that you were a person that I should respect, and one of the ways that I learned to respect you was to keep my distance. I was very happy. I was always happy that I never had Miss Dudley for gym. I played basketball. I was happy I was on the men's basketball team. And the reason was I used to hear my wife and I used to hear the other girls talking about Miss Dudley, and they say things like, you know what Butch did today? Or they say things like, boy, when she calls you little lady, you really are in trouble. And it's one thing to be embarrassed, a female to be embarrassed by another female, but do you know how embarrassing it is for a male to be embarrassed by a female? So I kept my distance from Mrs. Dudley for that reason. The other reason was she carried a big stick. And I never knew whether it was a stick or a cane or a crutch. I could never figure that out. But the way she carried it, I thought she meant business if she needed it. So I kept my distance from you for that reason. I'm very happy on account of and behalf of the Council of Trustees. And certainly my privilege and my honor to be here today and extend to you our warmest affection for all the dedication and loyalty you've given us over the years. And indeed, you are a living legend, because even though I never really got to know you, I knew of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Now we have greetings from Mr. Kenneth Wells, President of Cheney University Student Government Association. Mr. Wells.
Before I pay tribute to Mrs. Dudley, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Harris again for his video presentation. And also Mrs. Edith Bagley for the picture display of the newly renamed Performance Arts Center. On behalf of student government and the students, it is definitely an honor and privilege to be part of this historical event. You know, sitting here, everybody's giving their memories of their experiences with Mrs. Dudley, and it has been, you know, entertaining and amusing that I got to not be a part of it, but at least experience it. You know, I picked up that you're a very fine lady, you care for your people, and you show great respect to those that you took care of. And I'm sure that you will never be forgotten by the students of the past, the students of the present, and the students to come. Ms. Dudley, thank you for your dedication to our race community and definitely Cheney University.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. This time we'll have a vocal selection by Ms. Veronica Martin.
I am honored to sing this selection of Never Walk Alone in tribute to our living legend. As I sing to you, Mrs. Dudley, a replica of the present Mildred B. Dudley Performing Arts Center will be brought forth to you. The future building is on display on the side of the Blue Room. Mrs. Dudley, this selection is dedicated to you with love, affection, and appreciation. May God bless you. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and your never walk alone. You with hope in your heart, and you'll God bless you.
Getting myself together there. I think I want to take off the glasses and wipe it a little bit. We now have remarks by